Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Music for a Book podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Britt.
And I'm Hannah.
And every 2 weeks, we read and review a book, assign a song to that book, draw the parallels between the two, and have some fun along the way. So welcome back to the Season 2 finale, Episode 13 of the Music for a Book podcast.
We made it.
We made it. I can't believe we have another season finale. This feels weird. This feels wrong.
I know. It feels exciting. And we had to, finish it up with a nice little thriller.
Naturally.
So this week, we've chosen a book. We've both been anticipating this book since it was announced. So it'd be a great conclusion for us for Season 2. And we chose Home is Where the Bodies Are by Jeneva Rose.
Yeah, if you guys have seen the book, I mean, the cover alone, like, regardless of what you think about the contents of this book, they slayed this. Like, this is beautiful. And there's even a VHS cover for some of the exclusive ones. Like, I mean, that was a hit.
Yeah. And I like that it did tie into, like, what the book was, because I feel like sometimes covers are, like, if you judge a book by its cover, it has nothing to do with it. But this one, judge it by its cover, and it fit the vibe for sure.
Exactly. So how this episode is going to work is we are going to go over trigger warnings and a brief synopsis for the book, and then we will reveal our final song choices of Season 2. And after our song choices, we will move into what we like to call spoiler territory, meaning we will talk about anything and everything that happens cover to cover in this book. And specifically, the way this book is laid out, there's multiple POVs that kind of alternate. So I have a feeling that we will be referencing things that happen later on that were foreshadowed in the beginning quite frequently. So if you have not read this book and you do not want it spoiled for you, I highly recommend pausing the podcast there, coming back once you've read it. It's a very quick audiobook too, so that is an option as well. But that's your warning. There will be spoilers ahead. Dear reader. So, some trigger warnings for this book. It is a thriller. I would say it's more of like a familial drama tied in with a little bit of a thriller. So some of the themes, they're murder. There's definitely murder. There is a very heavy amount of references and discussion of drug abuse and addiction. I would say that's probably the most prevalent theme in this book, even though it's literally called Home is Where the Bodies Are. So just be warned there. There's death of a parent, also end of life care, alcohol, violence, grief, but addiction, drug abuse, that's hands down the most prevalent one.
Yeah, and talk of suicide too.
Yes.
So, brief synopsis of the book. After their mother passes, 3 estranged siblings reunite to sort out her estate. Beth, the oldest, never left home. She stayed with her mom, caring for her until the very end. Nicole, the middle child, has been kept at arm's length due to her ongoing battle with a serious drug addiction. And then Michael, the youngest, lives out of state and hasn't been back to their small Wisconsin town since their father ran out on them 7 years before. While going through their parents' belongings, the siblings stumble upon a collection of home videos and decide to revisit those happier memories. However, the nostalgia is cut short when one of the VHS tapes reveals a night back in 1999 that none of them have any recollection of. On screen, their father appears covered in blood. What follows is a dead body and a pact between their parents to get rid of it before the video abruptly ends. Beth, Nicole, and Michael must now decide whether to leave the past in the past or uncover the dark secret their mother took to the grave.
Dun, dun, dun. We got to do that once per thriller.
Right?
Minimum. Are we ready to talk about our final song choices of Season 2?
Yes.
So, there are so many layers to this book. I looked high and low, every which way. I had no idea if I wanted a song about Beth, if I wanted a song about Nicole, about Michael, about family, about the vibes in general. But I ended up, so a theme, if you guys have been around for a while, that I didn't realize that we did until we started kind of discussing it later, is that we talk about book as if they were going to be turned into films or movies or shows, and what like the cinematography would be, what the songs would be, what the vibes would be of the movie. And so I ended up picking a song that I feel like would be played at the end of this movie. And it's not from the 90s, but it has 90s vibes. So I picked Better Days by the Goo Goo Dolls.
Okay. I could see that. I almost went with that same vibe.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you what song I was debating on because I almost picked the same vibe at the end of the song, at the end of the movie, the book. I was going to pick Home by Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros. Were you thinking of that one?
That was one of the ones that I had listened to today.
Yeah, that was like, I could see that at the very end. But I landed on more of like a little couple lyrics and the vibes. So I picked Motion Sickness by Phoebe Bridgers.
I actually don't think I know that song.
It's a good song.
I'm excited to hear about it.
One of my favorites, and I don't know, something stood out to me with it. So
I love that. Well, I can't wait to hear all of those lyrics, and I will listen to it later too. But for now, we're gonna talk about the book. We're gonna head into spoiler territory. So again, this is your final warning. If you don't want spoilers, head out now. If you get it spoiled from here, that's on you, friend. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, because sometimes we just can't resist.
So, and I have a lot of
shadows after we go back. Yeah, I want to talk about like what I thought was going to happen from like certain parts. So yes, if you don't want to be spoiled, pause, go read the book, be kind to rewind your VHS tape and read the book, and then come back and gossip along with us
for all of the 90s nostalgia vibes.
Yeah.
Love it. All right. So first thing that I actually wanted to say is the acknowledgments at the end of the book are so fun. So Jeneva really went in and like she showed, I don't know, do you have the pictures at the end of your book too?
No.
Okay. So I have a limited edition signed copy from Barnes & Noble. And at the back of the book, after the acknowledgments, she actually has like a Dear Reader segment. And the Dear Reader is talking about Home is Where the Bodies Are and how it's set in Allens Grove, Wisconsin, which is actually the town that Jeneva grew up in. Like, it's a real place. And so at the end of the book, she took Drew, past tense of Draw, her husband, if you follow them on socials, and took him back to her hometown, which is where all of her descriptions kind of originated from, like a bunch of places. And at the end of the book, there are pictures of the town and everywhere that she took him with like a little description of everything.
That's cute.
So I personally think that this was Geneva's best like written story in terms of like the actual writing itself. And I think it shows because she had such a deep connection to the place itself.
Yeah. The cover of this book, exciting, right? But
Yeah.
the prologue I thought was really good too. It's only like a paragraph. It just starts out with, nothing brings people together better than death. And just says, death reminds us that life isn't infinite and that one day our time will come too. And it's like, knock, knock. Don't worry. It's not for you. ... This time.
I know, I liked that.
Yeah.
I felt like it was a good vibe. So as I said earlier, this story alternates points of view. So we get the points of view of all three siblings. So we get Beth, Nicole, and Michael, but we also get their mom, Laura, back in 1999 as little flashback chapters. As we go through, we'll try and, keep track of who's talking and whose point of view it's in. But I think it was an easy read, but there is a lot going on.
So it starts off, Beth is with her mother, and her mother is at death's door. Beth is the oldest, talks about how she has been there for her mom, taking care of the house, doing all this stuff, like really stepping up where her siblings are like lacking, She hasn't seen Michael, her brother, in years, that he's off, making his money in the IT world, and he's too good for it all. And Nicole's an addict and hasn't been around, so she's just, feels like the weight of that like family, that she has to take care of it, right? Because her dad apparently disappeared 7 years ago, walked out on the family. Just a lot from Beth to deal with. She has a daughter too that's in the Navy, I think, right?
Yes, in the Navy.
In the Navy, and just a lot going on for Beth.
And when she's with her mom as she's passing, we get kind of some of the details of her care that's been going on, but her mom has some last words. And naturally, of course, she passes before she can get all of them out. But her final words are very ominous, because we also find out, too, that the siblings have not been together collectively in 7 years. Beth has helped take care of Nicole, who, again, has been struggling with addiction. But like Michael has not been home. Family has not been together because their father disappeared. That weighed very heavily on the family as they've moved forward through their adult lives. But her mom's final words were, "Your father, he didn't disappear. Don't trust. ... And then she dies.
Right?
So
What did you think?
I'm not gonna lie, I unfortunately figured it out immediately, and I was really upset because I was waiting for it as it went, and I picked up, I don't know if you picked up on this, but I don't know if we want to reveal it like this early, but the chapters, I noticed that there were a significantly lesser amount of the chapters, and like the tone was very different. And so I picked up on it pretty quickly.
I figured you probably did. I didn't.
Yeah.
I think I did, but I didn't want to because it felt too easy.
Yeah. I was
But-
hoping it was the other one. I
Yeah.
was hoping there would be like a twist and it would be the other person.
Yeah. But like, I was thinking like, your dad didn't, I was thinking like she killed their dad, like the mom did.
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
don't trust something. I don't know. I wasn't really thinking like sibling wise.
I actually thought that their dad was alive.
Yeah.
I did think that he was alive. Spoiler, dad's dead.
Yep. Dad is dead.
Dad's dead. But we'll go more into like, again, we're going to spoil it
Well,
here
like,
a little bit. But
Your initial like reaction there. Cause I was like,
yeah,
don't trust who?
unfortunately was immediately, shit, why does my brain function like this? Can't I just enjoy things for the sake of enjoying?
You know, it happens.
But regardless, I still had fun with it. I feel like it was a fun, like it was not a mind-blowing read by any stretch of the imagination, but it was fun.
Mm-hmm. So then we meet Michael, the youngest.
Mm-hmm.
And his chapter just starts out. I always knew the one thing that would bring me home was death. So he hasn't been back home since their dad left, and of course he doesn't make it in time to see their mom. Like he makes it right after, and you can just tell he does not want to be back home at all. Talks about like the dead end street, foreshadowing how people that stay in this town kind of end up. So, you know, not my favorite guy there for sure, but
Yeah.
I can see it. He got out of the small town and coming back, and you don't want to come back really, and
Yeah, absolutely.
especially when your mom just died, like not the best circumstances.
No. And you can tell like right off the bat, Beth has some major resentment toward her siblings. Like not just Nicole for her addiction. And something too is interesting the way that Michael handles her addiction versus the way that Beth handles her addiction, because Michael has not been around. So it seems very much that Michael definitely enables Nicole more than he should, because Beth has like been there, done that, gone around time and time again with her sister. And she talks about, you know, just how badly addiction hurts, not just the person who's going through the disease, but the people around them. And Beth actually did cut Nicole off like about a year prior, but we find out that Nicole still writes her niece letters, and Nicole wanted to be a writer. There were just so many little things about her, but she just kind of got stuck in this loop. But they were just kind of wondering, like, where's Nicole? Is she ever going to show up for her mother's? And when Beth receives a call from a hospital and tells her that her sister has been violently attacked and they need to come check her out. It's very interesting though, real quick too, is that at the end of the chapter where we find out that Nicole was attacked and is at the hospital, she mentions something. She says, quote, "Money changes people the same way death does," in regards to Michael. And she feels like while Nicole's on one end of the spectrum, Michael's just chilling on the other end. And I would say she has fairly equal resentment toward both of her siblings for very different reasons.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So then we get Nicole. We kind of see while she's at the hospital and how for her, like music and memory can just kind of like tie together with like things that she remembers. Nicole, middle child, drug addict, just owes people money. She's, you know, just kind of in that struggle, like kind of in that in-between phase, right? We do learn, too, that she is 29 days clean, and she did promise her mom that she would come back when she got a chip. And literally one day away from getting her 30-day chip when her mom passed. So she hadn't seen her mom because her mom basically was like, bye, I'll see you when you're clean. Like, come back with a chip. And she was so close. So it's just, I feel bad for Nicole. Nicole definitely tugged on my heartstrings there for sure.
Yeah, I really, out of all of the perspectives, I loved Nicole's the most because I feel like she was just the most complex person of them all. And I feel like her parts were really well written. Also in the audiobook, I have to shout out this audiobook though real quick too, because they had 4 separate narrators. And the narrator for Nicole has become one of my favorite narrators. Her name is, I think it's Brittany Presley, if I'm not mistaken. She had done the 7-Year Slip. She narrated Murder Road. And I love what she does with audiobooks. But yeah, I just felt the most drawn to Nicole in general. Like she really got me because I think she did such a good job of showing the want and the desire to be better. But the internal struggle that you have with the addiction itself.
Yeah. Because I feel like Beth to me was like just the scorned older sibling, like didn't get what she wanted, and her like younger brother has money. Her little sister is like, you know, not living up to her potential. She's not together with her husband anymore. Her daughter doesn't really talk to her. Beth just seemed like, woe is me. Where like Nicole had that, like you said, that complexity to her, and we didn't really get too much of Michael.
Yeah.
At first.
So they bring Nicole home. They're back at the house. Everyone kind of takes a minute. I think Nicole takes time to really sink in the fact that their mom's gone, and they still don't know what happened to their dad at this point. Like, they don't know if he's truly just disappeared. They found his truck near the Mexican border, so the original thought was that he just ran away and he just, you know, got sick of his life and wanted to start anew. But there was no other like explanation than the truck being left there. There's no trace of him.
Yeah.
But yeah, they get home and they try to discuss, you know, what to do with the house. And there's a moment too with Nicole, which I had mentioned, like how different the interactions between Nicole and Beth and Nicole and Michael are. And Michael walks into Nicole's room and she says how Michael used to help her get rid of the monsters under her bed, even though she was the middle child. And he brings her a cell phone. She's like, listen, I can't afford this. I don't want your pity. And he's like, it's not pity. Like, it's just not. And there was another line. There was a couple I threw in here because I was like, oh, I like that. And when she said that Michael used to help her get rid of the monsters under the bed, she just said, but they're not under the bed anymore. They're in me. And I think that was just a testament to Nicole and kind of the things that she was struggling with. And I feel like this book is short. Like, we read books, most of the books that we read for the podcast, I would say fall between like the 350 and 450 page range. I feel like that's about on par. This book was like 240 pages.
Yeah. Our last book and this book. So Comfort and Joy was short. This was short. So we're ending on a short note here.
Yes. Comfort and Joy was special though. If you guys listened to that episode, you're welcome for bringing you so much comfort and so much joy.
Yes.
For the holiday season in July.
The mom's attorney shows up to the house and most everything is going to Beth, probably because she's the oldest and she's been around, and Michael is gone. Nicole's a drug addict. Their mom is like, I guess my only child that's responsible. Here you go. And including like a lockbox at the bank with unknown contents, because there's always got to be some air of mystery, right? To the will.
Yep.
The car and journals go to Nicole, and Michael gets their father's belongings. But the girls do pick out a couple things from that stash. Their mom wanted to be cremated and have her ashes spread around the property because that's where, you know, home is where the bodies are. So she wants to stay there. Michael and Beth have like a weird dynamic because, you know, Beth's been there taking care of the bills, like doing all the stuff for their mom. And Michael's like, I was giving her money. And Beth's like, hell you were.
I was giving.
Yeah, like I took care of her finances. Like you weren't giving her money. And Michael's like, yeah, I was. And it turns out their mom was saving that money that Michael was giving them, that we're giving her. And it's all being donated to the Missing Persons Foundation. And so at this time, we think it's in memory of their father. They never really had conclusion with what happened. And they also each got a letter that was not to be opened till after the funeral. Dun, dun, dun.
And that letter is very important later. All of them get to split their mom's stuff equally once they kind of go through it. We pop back over to Nicole, who starts going through her mom's things, the journals. They find a VHS collection, and they find a tape that's labeled Summer 99. And they decide to take a quick little break, a quick little breather. And they're like, okay, for nostalgia's sake, let's go watch this fun little video. And then we can get back to everything else that we were doing. So they pop in the video, and then we get our first chapter from Laura's perspective, so their mother's perspective, in 1999.
And how fun, though, to I feel like if this was just a fully happy video, just reminiscing with your brother and sister, about the memories of VHS tapes. I love doing that with my cousins and watching old tapes. It just, in a moment of grieving, be very exciting.
This is something Jeneva said she used to do too. And so again, I think that this was very close to her heart when she wrote it.
Yeah.
And it was drawing from a lot of personal experiences minus the bodies, You
never know. Maybe
not. Well, did you read the
dedication?
Dedication?
Yeah.
Yeah. It just says real quick. I'm all over the place tonight. Welcome. If this is your first time listening, hi, welcome to our season finale where we don't do anything normally ever. So it says, to my family, you've never had to hide a body, but I know you would if needed. Dad sure had us pour a lot of concrete though, so who knows what's under there.
Right? You never know. But so it'd be a lot of fun to watch these movies with your siblings, right? But they find something not so fun on this tape. So in their mom's chapter, in the throwback chapter, talks about always trying to capture everything with their camcorder and tells Nicole, don't let life pass you by, and encourages her to write. And we kind of see their family dynamic growing up a little bit and just the siblings and everything when they're younger in this throwback chapter. And so they watch this tape and, exciting. And then all of a sudden the dad is shut it off. And she doesn't know if she shut it off or not, whatever. Their mom forgot to record over this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was their dad saying it was an accident. And in front of their dad on the ground is a body of a girl who is visibly dead. And they're trying to figure out what to do with it. And the date is June 15th, 1999. That date is very significant to these siblings.
This is a massive shock to the system, obviously. So the date, June 15th, 1999, is actually the same day that the event Groovin' in the Grove happened for the little city. So they live in a small town, and this is the big summer event. School gets out, everyone's attending, they have music, and it's a little carnival, a little town fair, basically. And we kind of jump back and forth between that time and now. But the girl that they discovered is Emma Harper. And interestingly, Beth and Nicole are obviously very shaken. And Michael's just kind of definitely just a weird energy that Michael's given off. And
looking back, I can see that, but I didn't pick up on that while reading.
Yeah. When I was reading, I was like, oh, he's so fucking suspicious.
Yeah. No,
so suspicious.
I think because I didn't like him that I didn't even pay attention to him.
That's fair. He's annoying as shit,
to be honest. But
pompous little asshole.
So Emma was their neighbor.
Yeah.
So Emma lived in the neighborhood, and so they knew that date because they knew Emma. Emma's brother was the high school sweetheart of Beth too. So they knew this family really well. I can't imagine watching this video. You're oh, I remember this day living in the Grove, and then it's what the fuck, Mom and Dad? What were you doing? Yeah. So then it just goes back to what their mom said, right? Where I was thinking your dad didn't disappear, and I'm okay, did he run away?
And I think something interesting too is we don't know what happened because in the video he would not tell Laura.
Said it was an accident. We can't tell the police, and the mom's well, if it's an accident, let's call the police. And Dad's no, we can't.
And I will say too, through the chapters, I see their dad was painted to be a very much a family man, would sacrifice anything for his kids. And really was like an all-in parent. Like, he never gave any signs of being capable of doing something like this.
Yeah.
So it was definitely characteristically not like him.
Then we do meet Lucas, who is Emma's older brother, in the present time.
Yes.
Because Lucas does bring over some banana bread and kind of checks in on Beth. And like I said, they were sweethearts from growing up. So there's definitely, you know, that love, that tension is still there for them, right? But it does complicate things now because Beth kind of has an idea of what could have happened to Emma, where, like, you know, Lucas has no idea, right? That family has no closure at all. So kind of a little awkward.
Yeah.
But they do agree to go, like, on a walk the next day. And so Beth is kind of like, all right, I got to decide, like, am I going to tell him? Am I not? I don't know. So now that she knows, like, this big secret, right?
It's definitely a little complicated now, which, you know, murder can be minorly complicated. And we hop back to Laura and we have, like, a full flashback in Groovin' in the Grove. So it was really cool to kind of be immersed in that. We're definitely not going to go over the details of everything, but we see a lot of the sibling dynamic, the relationship between Laura and them, the relationship between Laura and Brian. And there is a distinct moment where she sends Michael to go back home to change because I think it was an egg toss or something where his shirt was dirty. He needed to go home and change.
Yeah.
And because it's 1999, like, you send your children in a small town to go do whatever.
Yeah.
Like, no one gives a shit, you know? At the end of that little chapter, though, she said that something in her gut just, like, felt wrong. She had this, like, butterfly feeling and something bad was about to happen, but she didn't know why or didn't know what.
Yeah. So Beth and Lucas do go for a little walk, and Beth tells them that she still emails her dad. Because at this point, right, they don't really know what happened to their dad. They think that he just dipped out. Peace.
Yeah.
You know? So she's still holding on to that because, like you said, right, he was the family man. Like, it was a very much, they loved him, right? And she's like, you know, just in case he responds one day, just want to update him. I'm going to send him one more email about Mom's passing. And if he doesn't reply to that, then we know that he's gone. Like, we know that he's done. And they hug, and she just feels at home in Lucas's embrace and feels safe.
Which is cute and horrifying because she thinks that her parents murdered his sister.
Yeah.
So that's fun. It's cute.
And so Nicole, meanwhile, has been going through her mom's journals because that was one thing that her mom did leave for her. Nicole just feels like she's, like, unlocking a new part of her mom, just getting that insight from her mom's point of view.
Totally.
Which I think, like, all of us as we get older too, we kind of realize what our parents were going through and that they were growing up the same time we were. And yeah, they didn't have everything figured out. Like, you know, when you're young, you think adults know everything. And now in my 30s, I was like, we don't know shit. Like,
I didn't know fucking nothing. I am just a girl.
Yeah.
Just a girl.
So I think it'd be cool to kind of go back through that for Nicole to get her that different perspective. And so Nicole is trying to get clean. Well, she, 29 days sober, probably 30 now, depending on the timeline here. She does ask Beth to take her to her treatment because Michael's not home, which Beth and Nicole still are kind of have that estranged relationship. So Beth does wait outside and just gets kind of anxious. I'm like, Beth, just calm down. Like, yeah, it'll be okay. But also I understand her perspective, right? Like,
yeah, worst case scenario all the time. Mm-hmm.
And she goes to find Nicole, and Nicole's like out back with a police officer and their old friend Casey. And Casey is giving her something.
Yeah.
Snuck her out the case file for Emma Harper.
Mm-hmm. And Casey was Nicole's, they said that they were best friends. Nothing ever happened, but I feel like they were the will they, won't they kind of relationship.
Yeah.
That was kind of the vibe that I got from them. But yeah, she's upset at Nicole because she's like, why are we involving law enforcement in this case from 1999? What are you doing? What are you doing?
Right.
And Nicole's just like, he's a friend. He's going to help. It's fine. Blah, blah, blah. And Beth is just not having it. I feel like Beth is not having anything that Nicole does.
No. Yeah, I think she's just like so over Nicole and just like whatever. I don't agree with anything that you do. Like Nicole could be like, I've been clean for 100 days and here's $1 million. And Beth would be like, okay,
where'd you get that million from?
Yeah, right? Like she would not care.
Exactly.
And so then we go back to 1999. The family's all at home, and then Emma's mom comes over frantic and announces that Emma's missing. And so the family goes out and joins the search.
How fucked up is that?
Like, I guess if you're covering it up, what else are you going to do? Like, no, sorry, sweetie, we're not going to search for your kid.
We know that almost everyone, like, they'll join the searches. Like, it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
But, like, that's fucked up.
Oh, it totally is.
Yep. Yeah, that's...
And so, like, they never find Emma. The search goes on and on and on. And so back in the present time, they get home and the house has been ransacked. Things have been destroyed. Things are everywhere. Just, it's a mess. But in the mess of everything, to add to the mess, Beth gets an email. And who is that email from?
Their dad, from Brian. Now, before I read this email, I, in my scanning of the book just now to get to the email, have just come across something that says, he gestures to our parents' belongings scattered along the floor, not playing Nancy Drew and stealing files from the police station.
Everything comes back to Nancy Drew.
All roads lead back to Nancy. I swear, it's not just us then. Like, there are so many references to Nancy Drew and Nancy Drew-like things. It's not just us.
Yeah.
We get an email from Brian, and the subject just says, long overdue, in all caps. And I'm just going to read this email verbatim from the book, because I think it's important. It says, Beth, I'm sorry I haven't written you in so long. Trust me. It was for the best that I stayed away. There are things I've done that I'm not proud of. Unspeakable things. But know that not a day has gone by that I don't think about you, Nicole, Michael, and my Laura. I can't believe she's gone, and I'm so sorry I can't be there for you all right now. I wish I could have been a better father, grandfather, and husband. But sometimes we're not the people we want to be. We just are. I know you worry about me, but don't. I am safe, I am well, and I'm closer than you think I am. Give Michael and Nicole my love, and please forget about me because I am not a man worth remembering. Love, Dad. And knowing what I know now, this might be one of the most fucked up pieces of the entire...
I feel like it was just unnecessary from not like a writing standpoint, but from the person that wrote it.
Yeah. So I read that and I was like, oh, cool. I was right. Homie's alive.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, he's not alive.
No.
He's really not.
Michael, the IT guru, right, is like, oh, well, let me track the IP address and let's go to the house to find him.
And of course, Nicole, starry-eyed, is like, Dad's alive? Like, let me go see him. I gotta go find him. And Beth's like, I've been burned one too many times. Homie, she is jaded.
Yeah.
Beth is jaded, and she's like, I'm not fucking going. If you find him alive, bring him back to me or whatever. But the importance of the email going to Beth is that she has these, like, vivid memories with her dad where she was teaching him, like, how to send emails, and they would come through, like, super incoherent for such a long time until he could, like, finally piece things together, and he would be so proud of his little emails that made hardly any sense. And so for this to come through, especially at this time and everything that's going on, I think just probably hit her in a way that she wasn't expecting because he hasn't responded since he ran away.
Yeah.
So, like, their mom's death being the catalyst to send the email is very emotional on top of everything else.
Yeah. And two, I think she's also thinking about what her mom said, right? Your dad didn't disappear, which I feel like that's also like, okay, but I've been emailing him and he hasn't replied. What the heck, you know? And then he finally replied. But then the end of what her mom said, right? Don't trust. I feel like going through Beth's mind is like, do we not trust Dad? What is that? So she does end up revealing those last words to her siblings too. Like, she was kind of debating on it for a while. She kept it like in. And she does reveal it. And Nicole and Michael do go to where the IP address was traced to. And it's just an abandoned house.
And he apologizes to her and he's like, I'm so sorry. It's not an exact science. And in Nicole's perspective, though, her mind immediately goes to the urge to use again. And she comes up with a random lie that her friend has some belongings of hers, some toiletries, some personal belongings at a motel. She just needs Michael to bring her there before they go home so she can grab them. She's in that hotel room. It's not a hotel. It is a motel room.
Yeah.
She's in that motel room for just a little too long, just a smidge too long. And Michael does what, other sibling did earlier. Just let me go check on her. And thank God he did, because Nicole was about to get her ass beat and probably murdered.
Yeah.
Like, she owed this man, I think, $500. And he is like smacking her across the face, screaming at her, pinning her down. And Michael just fucking snaps. He loses his shit. He beats this guy's face in, whips out his wallet that was probably, I don't know, from Hermes or something like that. It was worth more than anything that this man could have ever wanted.
Yeah.
Whips the money at his face. It sticks to the blood where he had just pummeled him in. And he hauls Nicole up and puts her in the car and is like, you have nothing to be sorry for. I got you. We're going to handle this. Now, this is where we're far enough in. I had suspected Michael from minute one. Like, I had a feeling. I just kind of knew. The minute that he beat that man's face in, no regard, the switch just flipped. I was like, yeah, it has to be Michael.
So I didn't think so, think it was one of the kids now.
Mm-hmm.
There's something that happens, I think, soon-ish that made me think it was one of the kids, but I think, I was waiting for more bodies. Yeah. That makes sense. I was waiting to, kind of make my judgment on who killed Emma, because I thought there was going to be a lot more bodies.
Yeah.
And a lot.
I mean, there were a few bodies.
But yeah. I thought there would be more children. That, I thought it was going to go that route, that, the dad.
Like a serial offender.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But there's something that happened that maybe, shift that, but, that's totally where my thought, process was going at this point.
Yeah.
More so than where yours was.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I really try, especially for thrillers, but, we do read quite a few thrillers. So I feel like there is kind of, a natural
progression.
Yeah. And you start to, piece things together pretty early on, especially when, you have consumed, a lot of crime content in the past. It's really hard to, twist a story. But what really tipped me off was the tone in Michael's chapters, just his tone in general, which genuinely, if you're not thinking about it, could just be written off as arrogance, cockiness, and stuff like that.
And that's where I kind of wrote it off.
Yeah, but the tone of his chapters and the fact that we had so few in his perspective were the two that, I remember listening to this and I was just like, man, we really haven't heard from Michael a whole lot, have we?
Yeah.
I was like, I wonder, because I think that if we would have heard from Michael, it would have been even more obvious.
Yeah,
it was him.
So, yeah, guys, spoiler, we're just going to go for it.
It's here.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up, because I was thinking almost the opposite. I wasn't really looking at Michael's chapters. I think I just wrote him off. Like I said, I didn't like him, so I was just whatever, dude, you're gone. But yeah, it ended with Nicole. So I thought Nicole was the drug addict, and I think that's probably how Jeneva wrote it too. Is
totally.
that kind of helped her suppress memories maybe that she had from when she was younger.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was going to be her kind of, because at the end of Perfect Marriage, which is Geneva's other one, the last chapter kind of is well, here was my plan all along. So that's why I was oh, if it ends on Nicole, maybe Nicole is the one that's well, this is what I remember now that I remembered it. So that was kind of my thought a little bit too.
I don't know. I love that we had two very different reading experiences with it, because we looked at the same thing I just think that there was an openness in Nicole's inner dialogue that there wasn't in Michael's, that just connected with me.
Yeah.
And I will say though, even though I figured it out, like I said earlier, I still had fun with it, because I also was low-key hoping that it was going to be Lucas. I was genuinely hoping that he had something fucked up that had happened to his sister, and because they were close families, that Brian helped him cover it up, or something. I thought it was weird that he just showed back up with banana bread when their mom died.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, Michael could be a red herring kind of situation. But regardless, that's where we are now. And yeah, Nicole's just don't tell Beth anything. She's gonna murder me.
Yeah.
Please don't tell her.
Yep. So then we go back, and Beth and Lucas have a little moment, and they end up kissing, and they go for another walk, and he was like, I miss us, right? And I think just like being home brings up those feelings probably for him, right, too. Beth is like, we can't do this, right, in her head, because she's like, I know the secret, I can't do this, right?
Yeah.
And she knows it's going to destroy Lucas, and they just kind of have a weird relationship, and then just whatever, they revisit that later. So Laura's still struggling with, their mom is struggling with the fact that they had to cover up this body, and Brian will not really go into detail about what happened, or why they can't call the police or anything. And he's like, I just can't, like, we can't tell them the truth. You got to trust me, right? Then Michael and Nicole get back to the house, and Michael tells Beth that he wants to buy the house over asking price. I'll give you cash. It'll be a great place for Nicole to live. Let me do this. And of course, Beth is like, no, why would I give you that satisfaction, Michael? And Michael's like, why wouldn't you? I'll give you cash over asking. You'd be dumb not to do it. And they're just siblings. I think you described it as like just a very toxic family dynamic. And I'm like, yes, 100%. Like, very toxic. And then Nicole runs downstairs and is like, oh my gosh, guys. Because she thinks that Emma is not the only body that their parents get rid of. Because there's a press release.
Yes. And so the press release says, again, I'm probably just going to paraphrase this one, but just says, missing teen, police ask for public's help to find 17-year-old girl. This is October 31st, 1999. And so Christy Roberts, who's 17, goes missing in Allens Grove. And so she was last seen, around 5 o'clock. And they said that they believe that she left willingly, but might be a possible runaway. However, her parents are concerned for her safety. Obviously, with Emma also going missing, it's too close to home, too close for comfort. This is one of those, I don't know. I feel like I have to sneak the word quintessential in every single episode we do. I feel like that's just the word, that I use. But this is like the quintessential small town, nothing bad ever happens here. And when something bad does happen, it poisons the well.
Yeah.
Like that well is gone. It is forever tainted. It's not a stain that you can remove from a town like this. Mm-hmm. So, they just want to be cautious. But yeah, it's not looking good.
No. So this is where I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, there's definitely like these girls going missing. Because like Emma was their neighbor, and Christy was like this girl that always wanted to hang out with the girls, always tried to hang out with Nicole, or I think not Nicole, I think it was Beth.
And she was like, Mom, if it's Christy, tell her I'm not here.
Yeah.
Mom, if it's Christy, tell her I'm away. And I felt bad for Christy.
Right? I did too. And I'm just like, okay, but these girls kept coming around. So I was like, this is where I got like suspicious of the dad. I'm like, creepy.
Yeah. Honestly, you're right though, because I feel like even though I was pretty confident that it was Michael from the beginning, this like, as soon as the second missing girl came up, I was like, maybe that is, because I love a good red herring in a book where you really think it's one thing and then they just trick you and switch it up at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not looking great.
Yeah.
For whoever's in.
And Laura was on the same track as me. I feel like I was, reading it. I was very much into Laura's storyline. But so when this happened, Laura was like, oh my gosh, another girl went missing. And she like is starting to suspect her husband, and she wants to support her husband. I feel like she was like, if it was one of my girls, I would want to know the truth. So she has this like internal battle with herself. Then their neighbor, Charles Gallagher, actually gets arrested after being interrogated and admits to killing Emma. And because he lives near the park, her footprints were there. He's the weirdo of the street. And Brian is like, this is an easy way out, Laura. Like, let's just do it. Just go along with it. It's done. We can be over with it. But Laura's still not convinced. She's like, it's not the truth. This poor random guy is going to take the fall for this. And because Laura doesn't know exactly what happened. So she's like, the second person going missing. Is my husband doing this? But he's not telling me? I don't know.
Yeah. Because whatever it is, she has no doubt in her mind that Charles is innocent. Like, no matter what he confessed to, she's like, this man was not involved. Because my husband, like, Brian would not have put himself on the line for Charles Gallagher. Like, he just wouldn't have. So, yeah, she is concerned for good reason.
Yep.
For good reason. pop back around to Beth, and they're discussing all things Emma, Charles, Christy, and Nicole's like, guys, don't you think this is really weird? Like, don't you think this is strange? And I feel like they both do like the sibling thing, which is funny because Nicole, like, she has that middle child vibe, but I feel like they treat her like she's the youngest because of everything she's
I had to keep reminding myself that she wasn't the youngest.
Yes. And so I feel like they're like, okay, Nicole, sure. No, yeah, honey, you believe whatever you want to believe. I feel like that's the energy that they brought to her. If they weren't calling her a crackhead, like those
poor Nicole.
I know the energy shifted very rapidly around her. But we do come back to Laura, and Laura decides, because she feels like Hannah said, like, justice is not being served. Justice is far from being served if Charles is being arrested. So she does something to basically get Charles acquitted, and she moves Emma's bicycle to be found because she got a hold of it while Charles was being detained and being questioned for everything. And so there was no possible way he could have done it. And so between like the loose evidence that they had, because they have no body, they have no other physical evidence besides a couple of items and a footprint that was in a yard that a lot of kids ran through, he ended up being, I don't know if it's technically acquitted, but like he was released of his charges.
Yeah.
And this was Laura's doing. And Brian knew that Laura had done this and basically was like, you fucked up.
Yeah.
You fucked up. You had an easy way out, and you said, no, let me go do the right thing.
Right. Then in the present day, they all go out to the local bar, the local watering hole, and just more little sibling spats and back and forth. And things never change with the three of them, basically. And Nicole's officer friend Casey shows up, and Michael's like, he's bad news. And I don't know, I'm like, Michael, whatever, get over yourself.
Yeah.
So Casey and Nicole are talking outside, and Casey's found the missing persons file for Charles Gallagher. And so this is like our little in to the police world, you know? And of course, Beth is kind of over it, like, why are you still talking to him, blah, blah, blah. But whatever. We're getting information. Thanks, Casey.
Oh, so then we go back to Laura again. We're creeping up on the pivotal moment for Hannah here. So Laura actually goes to visit Charles. And so, like I said, the well has been poisoned in this town. Charles admitted to something, and then he was released of all charges for it. And so now, even though he was released of his charges, the town, I feel like, hold their own witch hunt toward him. Like, they just brand him as this terrible person. He's the one who clearly had something to do with Emma's disappearance. And he was already the town weirdo. And now he's just relegated basically to staying at home or being like abused in public. So Laura visits him, and he tells her like she's the first person to treat him like a human, like with any semblance of respect. And it's really guilt that's kind of driving her to do these things. But yeah, it was one of those moments that I was like, okay, I'm glad she wrote this in. Like, I'm glad there was some sort of humanity, because Laura is very much driven by guilt.
Yeah.
So I really like that tie-in to Charles when she very clearly was harboring a lot of feelings about that.
Definitely. So then the time comes, and we have their mom's funeral. And Nicole and Beth kind of have like a little conversation about Charles. And at the funeral, Susan and Lucas do show up. Susan is Emma's mom, and she's kind of losing it a little bit. Calls Michael, Brian, and just, very, very awkward situation, especially like now that the kids know what happened. And they spread her ashes at sunset like requested, and have a little moment of closure a little bit with their mom in that sense. And then we flash back to Laura, and it's a very short chapter, but we find out that Charles Gallagher is dead. And we're to assume that Brian killed him because of what Laura did.
Back over to Beth. And this is where I had my Beth, you motherfucking idiot. All of the siblings had a you're a fucking idiot moment to me, but Beth specifically here. So Lucas comes over. Siblings are out of the house. They kiss, things get hot and heavy, they sleep together. She feels like she's transported back in time when they were teenagers. Like, it's a whole thing. And basically, they're like, oh, I hope this wasn't a one-time thing, wing. And they're like, yeah, no, definitely not going to be a one-time thing until Beth is like, yeah, like, let's talk about all these deep, dark things. Like, they talk about how Eddie, who is Emma and Lucas's father, died in a supposed hunting accident. Untrue. It was hidden from them, but he did die by suicide following Emma's disappearance. Beth starts reeling, and I feel like Beth does mimic Laura the most. And I think that was intentional. I think that her thought process and the guilt that she holds and things like that are very much on brand with Laura. Like, yeah. Nicole inherited kind of her mom's, like, the writing, the creative side, and I think Beth is just kind of Laura reincarnated. So she starts spiraling. And she's like, okay, hey, something really cute and fun. What if my parents had something to do with the disappearance of Emma? What do you think about that?
Like, you know, we just rekindled our love, and
yeah, now that
we dropped that bomb on you.
How about we talk about how my parents might have killed your sister?
And she's like, I have evidence. Let's watch the tape.
Rewind the tapes, baby.
Let's relive this for you, Lucas.
Yeah, so really great post-sex routine is to that is you might have been murdered by your now dead parents.
But so, you know, to Beth's surprise, the tape is actually blank. That's been like re-recorded over. It's gone. And Lucas is like, great, Beth. Just great.
Yeah,
this thing's not rehab. Goodbye.
Yeah, he's like, oh, well, yeah, maybe this was a one and done.
Yeah. Like, gonna rethink my life. See ya. And then Beth is just like, fuck this, and just starts like burning random shit around the house because she's like, well, I just fucked this up, but what was I supposed to do? And
burn it all.
Yeah. But then we flash back to Laura, and this is the chapter that I was like, okay, like it started to make more sense to me. Yeah, like kind of what was going on. But Laura basically like demands stuff from Brian. I need to know what happened, like, and Brian like tells her that he found Eddie, you know, Emma and Lucas's dad, curled up around the tree, covered in blood, that he killed Charles. And so Brian helped Eddie bury Charles's body and kind of cover that up. And Laura's still just like, why are we even in this mess? Brian, tell me why we're in this mess. I love you so much, but I'm also like, I can't support you without knowing.
If I don't know.
It's like unconditional love, but at the same time, death is a big deal, right? I need to know what's going on. And Laura kind of throws out, if you had something to do with Christy's disappearance, like, I need to know that too, right? Because it's in the back of her mind that like her husband might have had something to do with it, that second girl too. Mm-hmm. And then Brian just finally gives in as like, okay, and tells her the truth. And this is the paragraph that made me think like back on that track. And that's when I looked at like who ends this like story, and it was Nicole. And I was like, oh, but I'm gonna read this paragraph because this is where like for me it all clicked. I sit there silently listening to my husband as he told me what happened to Emma Harper and everything that occurred as a result of what we did. By the time he's finished speaking, I hate him and I hate myself, but I don't blame him because I would have done the exact same thing. And that's when it made me think like they are, as parents, they're covering something up.
They're protecting a child.
They're protecting their child. And that's, I'm like, because that's, I feel like learning about Laura so much, that's really the only thing that I think would have got her on board with it, right? Because
absolutely,
you know, she put the bike out there because of Emma's parents, right? Like she definitely has that parental like tie. So when I read this, I was like, they're protecting their child. They're protecting their child. So side note, have you seen the movie The Lie?
No.
So in that movie, they protect their child too. It's interesting. It's a little slow. I wasn't that impressed with it, but yeah, it just kind of reminded me of like almost like a similar-ish situation.
Totally.
So, but yeah, that's the chapter that I was like, okay, now it makes sense.
Yeah. And do you remember those letters that we talked about earlier? That Laura left for the kid. They could not open. Funeral happened. So Nicole decides to open hers. when she opens hers, I just have to double check this one part because I'm wondering now. A piece of Scotch tape holds the flap down, sealing the words Mom left for me, which I did not catch on the first read.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Piece of Scotch tape on her envelope. And in there was, again, just one sheet of computer paper, and all that it said was, "You're not the child I wanted, but you're the one I deserve. Regretfully, your mother." Can you imagine getting a letter like that from your mom, from the dead? Like, you already know that you disappointed her by being a drug addict, and then now you read a letter that's basically like, yeah, you're the child I deserve.
Yeah.
Because you fucking...
Talk about spiraling, like...
Oh.
But this is what makes...
Awful.
I mean, this is, like, Geneva, great job for people like me that just, like, read it, right? For fun.
Yeah.
Like, it was definitely Nicole. Like, it was definitely Nicole. Like...
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's who she was protecting, like, after this letter, right?
Like, and listening to you say these things, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. But my brain just was like, Michael, I couldn't undo it.
Yeah.
But I'm really glad, because I hope other people get that experience and they're not like...
Yeah, I hope so, because it was fun. Like,
yeah,
I let the book be the book.
I did. But apparently by page 7, my brain had decided what...
You're like, all right, cool. Like, I'm going to unravel this. I already figured... I Nancy Drew'd it. I figured it out.
And Nancy drew too close to the sun.
Too close to the magnifying glass. So Nicole just starts going off, right? She does her thing. But Beth finds a couple graves in the backyard, which she, you know, sees like her childhood pets, and she recognizes a few of them. Yeah. Then she sees a couple more. And it's like labeled Butterfly, Goofy,
and Garfield. She stumbled upon these because she had found a journal entry that her mom had written that basically was like, I've learned that there's a lot of things that you can bury, but the past isn't one of them. So like that got her like really thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't remember like a Butterfly, Goofy, and Garfield. And so she does dig up the graves, and the skeleton of the butterfly is not an animal.
Sure is not.
It is not an animal.
Nope.
And so we go back to Nicole, and Nicole's still trying to figure all this out. Just read that letter and like, all right, I'm going to come to the bottom of this. And she convinces, she goes and opens a lockbox and finds an envelope in the lockbox with the truth of what happened. And their mom left it. The lockbox was supposed to be for Beth, but Nicole, you know, convinces the lady to let her do it. And the mom left behind all the answers in that lockbox.
And then we swing back over to Beth. And this last sequence is like, all of these chapters are super short in quick succession, going boom, 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 boom.
Mm-hmm.
And mind you, there is not a singular chapter from Michael from 38 to the end. We get back to Beth. She's fucking going. She's hauling ass.
Well, because she has like that thought too, right? Is like, Goofy is what her mom called her dad. Mm-hmm. And so she like, it's all starting to like kind of come together.
Yes, all the pieces are falling into place. And so she's digging, but she hears like a familiar voice call out for her, and we don't know who this voice is yet. But in her head, we hear her say, echoing her mom's final words, don't trust, don't trust, don't trust. And so it's just like this very cliffhanger-y situation before we pop back over to Nicole.
Yep. And Nicole's rushing home, calling 911, and just telling them to like get there, that there's bodies on the property. And the 911 is like, are they still alive? Just get to my house. And so approaching Beth in the woods is Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
And Beth is like, I found Emma's body. And as they're talking, Michael comes and assaults Lucas, who said they should have left the past in the past. We have the villain reveal, basically, of Michael. Yep. And Beth notices on, like, the grave with Goofy of the wedding ring, so she knows it's her dad. And then Michael confirms it, too, because Michael's in his little big reveal moment and kind of what happened. And,
yeah,
just the villain, you know.
Yeah, I mean, truly is a piece of shit. Like,
Yeah.
no guilt, no remorse, true sociopathic behavior. He basically is like, well, it was an accident with Emma. He pushed her purposely off the side of a fucking railing to her death, and then knew it was bad enough, didn't even check if she was breathing, and dragged her under some twigs.
Yeah.
And bruh.
Oh,
Excuse
Michael.
me? Michael. But in this altercation, Michael, he has a gun.
Of course.
I can't. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I can't. Are you on the part of TikTok where it's like the stick 'em up partner and they're holding their pets?
Yeah.
Like doing that. That's all I can think is that song right now. Like, yeah, there's a gun altercation, and Nicole's like screaming in the distance for Beth, and Michael's like, "Don't involve your little sister. Like, we can just end this. You don't want to hurt her any more than she's already been hurt." And Beth's like, "You're right. Like, I'll just take it. I'll just die. It's fine." And Nicole gets there, though, and she's like, "Yeah, get the fuck up. No, we will not be doing this." But a gunshot goes off.
Dun, dun, dun. And Michael gets shot.
Thank God.
Peace
But
out, bro. Yeah.
He lives. But that means he gets the rot.
Yes. And Lucas is okay after the altercation. And so then we get Laura's final letter.
It's a very long letter, so we're just going to briefly summarize, maybe quote a couple of things.
So before this, too, we do find out that Michael switched the letters. So, like,
Oh, yes. I forgot about that.
Nicole's letter that she got from her mom saying that, like, you know, that she didn't deserve a child, like, it's the child that she deserved, was actually for Michael. So,
Yes. And that's why when I reread it back, I can't believe I just forgot about that. When she said that she lifted the Scotch tape, I feel like that was definitely placed there by Michael to like reseal it.
oh, yeah.
Because I can't imagine that the letter was sealed with Scotch tape. Like,
No.
it just doesn't make sense
No.
to me. But yeah, I did not notice that on the first go around. So yeah, that letter was meant for Michael. And he said that mom had much more glowing things to say about Nicole, obviously.
Right? Like, than Michael. But so, yeah, Laura has a long letter, and we'll kind of highlight a few, but just her last sentence. I'm going to skip to the last sentence and we'll go back.
Yep, and we'll go back. Yep.
Because she says, "I've taken these secrets to the grave, but that's as far as I can take them."
Yeah.
So, like, in this letter, she just starts off with, like, her job is to protect her children, but that she does think that she took it too far.
We find out that Michael went to Brian, told him what happened, and Brian immediately went into protect my child mode.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, we didn't go over all the details, but if you've read this book, you know that through like Laura's early chapters, we can see like truly what a doting and attentive father he was. And it makes sense of his character that he would go above and beyond to try and protect his children, especially because Michael was very young when this happened too. And so she just talks about how like basically she tried to course correct. Like they really tried to course correct Michael. So in the instances where Nicole and Beth held some resentment toward Michael for how he was treated by their parents and things like that, that was then probably, like Laura admits, overdoing it for the sake of trying to ensure that Michael stayed on the right path, like getting him the computer for his birthday, sending him to like these camps, really investing in like his success. And so when he, as a young man, became very successful in IT, moved to California, started making a lot of money, Laura and Brian kind of thought like, this is it.
Yeah.
We did it. Like we fixed the problem. We put a lid on it. We will deal with the consequences as parents, but he can continue to live his life because of a mistake that he made when he was a young kid.
Mm-hmm. One thing we didn't talk about too is like one of Michael's girlfriends randomly disappeared. And so when he came back home grieving for her, their parents were like, didn't really trust him. Or kind of like, maybe we didn't, succeed with it. And that totally like altercation between Michael and Brian happened. Their dad and, Michael claims it was self-defense, but we know that he's just an evil piece of shit. And that's how like their father died. Laura knew that, but like, still wanting to protect her son and everything. And I think she was like almost scared of Michael at that point too. Is like,
I would be.
What am I going to do?
Yeah.
He can easily kill me, like, just everything.
Yeah, and he just took away her husband, which was truly the only, like, cling to life that she had left, because he obviously knew everything because they had done it together, and they had kept this from their children for so long. Well, Michael obviously was part of that, but, like, keeping it from Beth and Nicole, I think really just ate away at her throughout her life. But
then we also find out what happened to Christy. So Christy actually blackmailed Brian. And so she didn't disappear. Brian helped give her a new life and start anew. And since she had pictures of what happened, what Brian did and all of that. So,
and she talks about how she staged the potential disappearance of Brian, like that he might have run away she found a note that he had written her before he died, before they buried him in the backyard. And she used that to file a missing persons report. And she gave Michael the keys to Brian's truck, and he's the one who left it down in Texas near the Mexican border. And he only used cash. She went back to California after. Like, they really tried to cover as much of it as humanly possible.
Yeah, and Laura was like, I never want to see you again to Michael. That's why he wasn't around, right? It wasn't, because he didn't want to be around, basically. But I mean, why would you want to be around?
I think something interesting, though, Laura, laid this shit out on the table because she said, I think I'm just going to read this last part because I feel like it is very intense. It's a chunk about Michael and the feelings that she had toward him. And basically she just, he broke down when she was like, I never want to see you again. So I think it's really important into where her mindset was with her child. Specifically, she said, I had no desire to console my child or dry his tears. Every motherly instinct within me had evaporated, the maternal bond severed forever. They say the love you have for a child is unconditional. I don't believe that anymore. There are conditions. And the condition I had for Michael was that I would love him forever and always, but only at a distance from that day forward. And I mean, I think she proved her love for her son in the actions that she had taken. And yeah, the last thing too that she said basically was that the reason that she had chosen to have her ashes spread on the property was that she could be reunited with Brian and kind of have that one last piece of them together. And yeah, it's very detailed, but I had to read that part because I thought that was super, that hit hearing that, where she was like, no, there are conditions. These are my conditions now.
And I think too, right after that, she says, I know Brian and I didn't do the right thing that night.
Yeah.
We buried a truth that wasn't ours to bury.
Yep.
And so I think she just I think if Brian would have been honest with her from the beginning.
Yes.
I think the situation would have been a lot different.
I agree.
Because I feel like they could have protected Michael in a different way. And I think Brian was quick to just bury the body instead of they're young kids. It could have been an accident. They could have gone that way more so and given a lot more closure.
Yeah, and with how young Michael was too, the likelihood for something like that where it wasn't one of those kind of very intense deaths where she was stabbed 37 times.
Yeah.
Crazy. It genuinely was a push or a fall or a shove over the edge of something. And with him being so young, I don't foresee him having been charged fully as an adult or anything like that in the 90s.
Exactly. And I think that's where, as Laura got older too and thought about that, as we didn't do the right thing. We thought we had the right intentions.
Yeah.
But they were just intentions. They weren't really the right things. So
yep.
We've talked about this before about epilogues. And I know this isn't technically an epilogue, but it's 3 years later. I love Nicole's ending chapter is great.
Correct.
That's, I don't know, because I always joke about, 3 years later, they're married and have a kid. And so Beth, 3 years later, she's married to Lucas and they have a kid. They adopted a kid. I'm
yeah.
I'm glad she had a happy ending, but I was Jeneva, you could have just been together. They didn't have to, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
we know how Hannah feels about epilogues.
Yeah. But anyway, so, that's what happens to Beth. Her and Lucas get back together. And
yep. And Nicole and Casey are together.
Mm-hmm.
They have their will they, won't they moment.
Yes. But no, I like how it ended with Nicole.
Me too. I really loved this. If we could just remove Beth's chapter, let's end it on Nicole. I genuinely, when it comes to an ending, this was probably one of my favorites in terms of a thriller and how it wrapped up at the end.
Mm-hmm. No, we talked about this at the beginning of the episode, but even this, I can feel though, if this was a movie, I feel the ending would be at the beginning almost.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, like
they like zoom in on the clip and it's her like on the talk show.
Yeah.
And she's talking about it and then it fades in. Yeah.
Because so Nicole becomes an author and living her life, finally able to kind of move on from a lot of the childhood trauma and drug addiction that she like just kind of suffered through. And so she's on the talk show and they ask her to read an excerpt from the book. And so she like starts, but then it ends with, "This is my story." And it starts at home because home is where the bodies are. And so, yeah, like with Beth's approval and everybody's, you know, input, she basically writes this book. Like, this is basically by Nicole, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I really liked that.
Cool.
But yeah, that's Home is Where the Bodies Are.
Yep, that is Home is Where the Bodies Are. You want to let's jump into our songs.
Let's do our songs. Perfect.
Because I feel like we said a lot of our thoughts throughout that, so.
I agree. So, thoughts here.
Well, so real quick, because I feel like it's like, you know, home is where the bodies are, and that's going to be like home. There you go, home. Home is whenever I'm with you. And then it just shows like, you know, Beth and Lucas happy and, you know, Michael just in jail, just rotting away.
And stuff. Yeah, like, okay, but picture too, like the opening piano and guitar strums to the do, 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 do.
That too, for sure.
But the reason I picked Better Days by the Goo Goo Dolls is I spent so much time going through the early 2000s, 90s music, and none of them hit the way this song did, even though the song was like later 2000s, but it gave me 90s vibes. And I could picture this at the end because for me, like, I think during this whole thing, the theme was like, everyone was just hoping for better, specifically Beth and Nicole. Like, they just felt stuck in this cycle and they were just hoping for better. And that's what Laura was just hoping that Michael would get better, that they could course correct, that they could do all these things. So the song starts out by saying, "And you asked me what I want this year, and I try to make this kind and clear, just a chance that maybe we'll find better days." Like, I don't need anything else. I just want us to be better from here. And it says, "Because I don't need boxes wrapped in strings and designer love and empty things, just a chance that maybe we'll find better days." And I feel like this could almost be a jab from Beth at Michael. Like, I don't need your Hermes. I don't need your Gucci. I don't need your, you know, rich lifestyle. I just want these days to be better. So the chorus is, "So take these words and sing out loud, because everyone is forgiven now, because tonight's the night the world begins again." And I feel like that is almost like the end where they read Laura's letter. And I can just picture, again, I feel like I do kind of, so some people, very random, but some people don't visualize things when they read, like they can't visualize things. I very much have like a cinematic 4K experience in my head. So I think that's why we tend to lean toward
Probably,
movie-like experiences, because books do, if they're like, if I'm immersed, it does feel like I'm watching a movie in my head. And so I just pictured that, like Beth and Nicole together, like as they're taking Michael away in an ambulance and they're, you know, making sure that Lucas is okay. They're looking at each other like the world begins again now. Like we can start fresh here. And it says, "I need some place simple where we could live and something only you can give. And that's faith and trust and peace while we're alive." And this is like, I think just everyone's, I feel like it's tailored a little bit more toward Beth, but it really could just be everyone. Like, I need a simple life. Like, we're going to start fresh, start from scratch and rebuild. And then there's a part about a poor child that I'm going to cut out, blah, blah, blah. And it says, again, "So take these words, sing out loud. Everyone is forgiven now." And down here, before the last chorus, it just says, "I wish everyone was loved tonight and somehow stop this endless fight. Just a chance that maybe we'll find better days." And it just ends with, "Because tonight's the night the world begins again." And it is about these lyrics about like the fresh start that they have. But the song also feels very like resolute to me. Like, if you listen to the song, I feel like the Goo Goo Dolls are the epitome of 90s and 2000s like epic ending film songs. Like, you hear Iris is one of the most, I personally think one of the best songs like of all time. Like, it's an epic moment. you hear Black Balloon, you hear, some of these other songs. But yeah, I just felt like the line, tonight's the night the world begins again. Like maybe we will find better days. And they did find better days. And I just, this was the cinematic experience of a song that I felt like after I listened to dozen songs, this is the one where I listened to it and I went, yes, I could visualize this in regards to what happened at the end of the story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good choice. Thank you.
So,
I listened to a ton of songs, and then I listened to this song, and then I read the lyrics, and just like the song starts out with this lyric that just like kind of hit me, and I think it like summarizes well how the siblings and mom feel about Michael. So it starts out, it says, "I hate you for what you did, and I miss you like a little kid."
Yes.
So I think it kind of just shows that like emotional stretch that they have, that they like hate Michael, hate their parents really for what they did.
Yeah.
But they still, miss him, miss that, that innocence almost that they had before they knew.
Absolutely.
So that, I was like, I like that. And I feel like that kind of is a good way to describe their relationship and kind of how they feel towards that. Because even like, in Laura's letter, when she's like, I will love you, but from afar.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of like, I hate you for what you did, but I also miss you like a little kid. Like I still have that innocence that I'm holding on to.
Yeah.
And the song itself, though, I feel like would be like something that Nicole would listen to, or like something with like Nicole's kind of just like vibe, the Phoebe Bridgers vibe. But just like a couple other lines, it's like, I can hardly feel anything. I can hardly feel anything at all. And I feel like that's like, from Laura's perspective, is just like, she's trying to like, understand, but she can't really like feel it, right? Like she can't really pinpoint why she's helping Brian, but she just like is going with it because she, loves this man and wants to support him there too. And, the song is called Motion Sickness. And the chorus says, "I have emotional motion sickness. Somebody roll the windows down. There is no words in the English language. I could scream to drown you out." The emotional motion sickness to me is kind of just, this book gave me emotional motion sickness, right? Like, just because it was like up and down. And it's like, once you find out that they did this to protect their child, it's like, what lengths would you go to protect your child, or like to protect somebody you love? Like, so just kind of that up and down emotional roller coaster of, I'm doing this from love, but is it the right thing to do? So it just kind of like gave me that like feeling to put into like words, And there's another line, like, "I'm sorry that all went down like I did." Another Laura thing, like, again, sorry that it happened like that. And like the last part of the song is, "I have emotional motion sickness. I try to stay clean and live without, and I want to know what would happen if I surrendered to the sound." And that just gave me like Nicole vibes, kind of, right? Like, Nicole throughout this whole book was very much like, you can tell Nicole is my favorite character, but like how she like was going up and down, right? And like where her drug addiction really started from like an accident. So it wasn't really like she just got, pushed into this. And she tried to stay clean for her mom. And then when it like didn't happen, she's like, do I just surrender everything, right? Like, I got this letter from my mom. Do I just give up? But she didn't. And I think that's where that kind of emotion sickness still playing with her, right? Until she finally was able to come out of it. So,
that's a good choice. It does feel very Nicole.
Yeah. Once you listen to it too, I think you see where I would
get vibe. Totally. All right. Our final book ratings of season 2. So, if this was your first episode, hello. We rate into the moon into Saturn because star systems just don't fit the vibe. You know what I mean? So, this one, normally I have like a pretty solid book rating kind of coming in. I have been oscillating because I like it, and then there are some things that I didn't like, but I had a really fun time with it, so I wasn't sure. So I was falling somewhere between like a 3.5 to a 4 is kind of where my vibe was. So I think just for argument's sake, I'm going to land somewhere in the middle, and I'm going to do 3.75 moons. If I had to round to like one or the other, I would probably be more likely to round up to a 4 for entertainment purposes. But I'm going to go 3.75 because that I feel like that's like, it was not mind blowing. And I think part of it is because I pieced it together so quickly. Like it just, there was no shocking reveal for me because I was like, oh yeah, like Michael sucks. And I picked up on that right away. So that was just my reading experience, but I did genuinely enjoy it. I would definitely recommend it. And I do think out of everything that I've read by Jeneva, this is her best written book.
Yeah. Might surprise you. I'm giving it 4 Saturns. I'm vibing this one out. Which is interesting for me. I feel like I'm a little bit more harsher sometimes, but this one like just felt very fun, and it was a thriller that wasn't a thriller to me. Like I wasn't sitting at the edge of my seat suspenseful. Yeah. But I wanted to know what happened. So yeah.
I love that. Like I'm going to log this on Goodreads as 4 stars.
Yeah.
That's the vibe. But yeah, I think, is this the first time you have ever rated a book? No, it's not.
I don't think so.
No. One other time it happened.
Yeah. I can't think of when, but I know that it happened.
Evelyn Hugo.
That's right. Yeah.
Yep, that was I think that's the only other time.
That's what I'm at.
Yeah. Because normally I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm going to read a book and I'm going to rate it like 5, and Hannah's going to come in and be like 3. 1.
Yeah.
2, I hated it.
Yeah, but I feel like we kind of knew with Evelyn though that like,
oh yeah,
I mean like that would be a higher one. Yeah,
totally.
But this one, I don't know. This one was a lot of fun for me.
I got fun.
I don't know. Like I said though, I feel like it wasn't thriller enough for me. I would have liked more thriller. Yeah, but I enjoyed the story.
I was gonna say, yeah,
I liked how it ended. So it kind of tied everything together for me.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of these are marketed as thrillers, but in reality, they're more of like, I don't even know, mysteries. Like, there's just like at no point during this was I like scared
because like, it's rated T for thrilling.
Exactly. Like these are some great pulls by authors. And again, I thought this was so fun, and I do think that I would have rated it higher had I not figured it out so early on.
Yeah, and I feel like too, even if I would have figured it out, I feel like I still would have enjoyed it. Like,
I did. Yeah, I had fun.
So I was fully engrossed in it. But all right, there's our ratings, guys.
That's our ratings. Our final rating for season 2. Now we have some news. We have some information to give you. So here's the thing. Every season that we do is 13 episodes because of Taylor Swift, obviously. Here's the thing though. Our season 3 is not going to start until a little bit later in the fall. We're not going dark on the podcast for 2 months. Like we just couldn't do that.
So we have reading goals to maintain. Okay.
Exactly. Now we didn't want to bring you regular episodes because like what would be the point of taking a break then? So we're doing something a little bit different, and we're introducing something called our mixtape series. So excited. These mixtapes. This is our summer mixtape series, even though it does teeter into fall. Don't fight us. The calendar.
No, I don't think it doesn't. It doesn't.
Yes. No. Oh, because we moved it. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So this is our summer mixtape series. So what we're going to do is there will be 4 episodes in total. The first one comes out next Wednesday, August 7th.
The season 2 started out on Valentine's Day with a love story.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're spooky. We like spooky season. Spooky season will be season 3. But all right, continue with the mixtape now.
Perfect. So leading up to our spooky season, again, we're going to have 4 mixtape episodes. So the first one comes out next Wednesday, August 7th, which means you don't get a usual 2-week gap in our episodes. You're getting a 1-week gap because we love you. Just so you know. So how these episodes are going to work. They will be shorter than our traditional episodes, which usually fall somewhere between like an hour and 15 to 2 hours-ish, somewhere in there. These are going to be a little bit shorter. And the difference in these is that we are going to have guest hosts coming on the podcast with us. So the guest host is the person who picks the book. So we're going to read whatever book they decide. They're going to pick a song like we pick songs. We will also pick a song for the book. And then we're going to go through and discuss the book in a lot more of like a looser structure. We probably won't be going through as many plot points. It'll be more of like a book club type discussion. So if you haven't read those books, I promise you that you will be lost probably through at least some of it. Like we'll be going over the general details, but we will not be doing a full detailed review like we do here. But it's going to be so much fun. I'm excited. Are you excited?
I'm excited.
Beautiful. So,
do you want to talk about what the first episode is going to be?
Yeah,
we're going to reveal it.
Let's talk about the first episode because it comes out next week. So,
yeah,
y'all can get ready for this. So, the first episode will be hosted by me because, Hannah's having a baby and we're going to give her some time off. We love this for her. So, she's going to be with baby girl. And I am going to be hosting the first episode with my best friend, Jordan. We've been friends for 20 years almost, which is crazy. And she actually is a streamer. I would call her like a semi-annual streamer at this point because like who knows when she actually gets on stream, but it's fine. We love her anyway. And she's chosen the book Bride by Allie Hazelwood, which is very far outside of like my comfort zone, I think, in terms of like paranormal romance, but she picked it. It was not, I didn't even offer it up to her.
And it's so funny because you like put it on our TBR list for possible season 2, and I like vetoed it. I was like, no, we're not reading it. Well, I'll listen to your episode. I'll be lost. I'll listen.
Yeah.
But so glad. I'm glad Jordan volunteered for that. So
she sure did. But yeah, so
that representation.
You can tune in next Wednesday. Episode release times will be the same as usual, but we have fun new kind of details for the summer mixtapes. And then we will be revealing our season 3 like color scheme and vibes a little bit later. But yeah, we're excited.
And just don't forget, please follow us on social media, rate and review the podcast. Your feedback is important to us. Join our Patreon if you want to get ahead on season 3. So you can read ahead and kind of be up to date with that. Because I know sometimes 2 weeks is a little tight to turn around with these books. So we want to give you ample time to our Patreon subscribers.
Exactly. Join our mailing list. We have a lot of plans for season 3. We have, if all things go according to plan, we might have something coming up. So if you join our mailing list, join our Patreon, you will be the first ones to know when we have extra special fun things going on.
Yes. So we appreciate you so much for sticking around for season 2. Season 3 is going to be even better.
Yeah.
So can't wait to see you guys in the fall.
So excited. All right, everyone. Keep reading with kindness. And we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.